But anyway, so back to Baldwin though. Like what you said though, I mean, you're handed a gun, you should definitely do your due diligence and check it thoroughly. Because I mean, you don't just say, "Oh, it's a hot gun," and then the reason I brought up Jensen Ackles is because he was handed a weapon, and he was asked, you know, they said that this gun's blah. He opened it up and checked it out and whatnot. Because the thing is, I watched a video. It wasn't him talking, but it was just like, I don't know if it was real or not, but they said that he checked it out, and then the prop master handed it to him and said, "Do you know how to use weapons?" And he's like, "Oh, I think so." And then he like unholsters it, you know, at a field, and he's just, and she called him an asshole because he knew exactly what he was doing because he's worked with weapons for a long time.
Yeah, I did. I actually watched that bit today when he was talking about it. But here's the thing: what kind of gun was that?
I don't know. I think
I learned this today too, which again, this took a lot of heat off Alec Baldwin, in my opinion. So apparently, and again, if anybody knows better, correct me, but this is according to the YouTube lawyer. Apparently, from what I understood, from what I was being told, is that once a revolver is loaded, you really can't tell whether or not it's a blank or a dummy round.
They just need to stop using live, or they
well,
just need to stop using real weapons.
Well, it's okay. So here's the thing, though. I get the reasoning for doing it, though, because when you have, it's not uncommon. So, like, I'm trying to think of a really good example of a movie where this was done with a revolver. Can kill
people too.
Well, that's what they're saying. So they're thinking. So there's dummy rounds, which have nothing in them. They just look like bullets. And then you have blanks, but the problem with blanks is
they have a shell, right?
Well, they have a shell and they have packing, so that because something has to help create the explosion. So it's got gunpowder and then it's got packing. But even when you fire blanks, there shouldn't be anyone in the line of fire. And typically, the production staff that has to be there, like the cinematographer and all those people, they're behind protection. Because that's how Brandon Lee died, was actually from a blank round, but somebody hadn't properly cleaned the gun. So it wasn't a bullet that killed him. It was basically a piece of just a piece of debris that was in the barrel or came from the barrel.
Nah, dude, it was mafia.
That's it's never been not proven.
Now, I need to go down the rabbit hole for 1 second. Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
How didn't he die of a heart attack, or was he shot? Someone said he was shot, and I was like, he wasn't shot. He died of a heart attack. Well, it wasn't necessarily a heart attack. It was a heart failure.
Well, no, actually, according to the coroner, what happened was he had an allergic reaction to painkiller. Now, at the time, they said he was taking aspirin, but they think it was something, and I could be misremembering this, but basically he took a painkiller and it caused his brain to swell. And by the time they figured out what was going on, he was dead because he lost consciousness. And I guess what happened is he took the painkillers because he was in a ton of pain because this was right after they wrapped Enter the Dragon. And they'd filmed a little bit of Game of Death, which is the last movie, but they only got the final fight scenes done. And he was at his producer's house, and I think they were having some kind of meeting. They were supposed to meet an actress who was supposed to be in the movie. And he asked for something for pain because he was in pain, and he said he was going to go lie down because they were waiting, like he was going to go take a nap. But then a few hours passed, and they were like, "Fuck, Bruce is still in there." So they checked on him, saw that he wasn't conscious, and then that's when they called basically emergency services because this was in China. This was in Hong Kong, not China, and he was pronounced dead shortly thereafter.
Damn, that's crazy.
Fucking, could you imagine though? Like, let's go down this rabbit hole because this is one I always love to think about. Could you imagine if Bruce Lee had lived into the late 90s, which he would have had that not happened? He would have been older, but could you imagine Bruce Lee being around for the birth of MMA, UFC?
Oh,
holy shit!
What he could have trained people, and
well, he was essentially already doing this before. All that was missing was basically Gracie Jiu-Jitsu because Bruce Lee was already teaching that kind of mentality with Jeet Kune Do, but it was all stand-up fighting. Like he knew some ground techniques, but he was not or at least not to my knowledge. He was not a master of jiu-jitsu or any ground fight. Although he was a wrestler.
Bruce?
Yeah, Bruce Lee, traditional
Okay.
Western. His biggest things were he was initially trained in Chinese Wing Chun, but he became very, very big on Western boxing, wrestling, and then a lot of the elements of Wing Chun that he had basically like cut his teeth in
He Wing Chun tonight.
every night, and he had fun.
Oh.
Man, I'm telling you though, I can only imagine how cool, has some really cool shit that could have been had Bruce Lee not, and Brandon Lee too, because Brandon Lee was a solid actor.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, dude, The Crow.
Such a damn good movie.
You know, it sucks. You know that what happened. Mafia.
I mean, that's when like I don't believe in that kind of stuff, but you look at that shit and you're like, I mean, correlation doesn't equal causation, but that's some weird shit.
I mean, I kind of want to know what the cinematographer knew.
You know what? I hate to say that my mind went there. I hate to say that my mind went there. Which again,
Rest in
and
peace, I'm not trying to laugh at her death, people.
well, and I'm kind of glad you brought that up because I didn't forget about it, but my mind wasn't there. But I will say, you know, and I'm not like angry about it. It's just, to me, it's just sad how early all the memes were coming out, and my only thought the whole time was like, fucking somebody's dead. And we're making like, and we as a people are just making joke after joke after joke about this, and it's like somebody fucking died.
Yeah, I can't say that my hands are clean on that one.
Well, and again, this isn't so much like, because I mean, I'll admit some of them were really fucking funny.
Yeah, but the thing is, we're not laughing at her because everyone
I guess
everyone took
that's
that seriously. It was more.
I guess that's the saving grace is the fact that we're not like the memes weren't about her. I don't know. I just that, and again, I'm really glad we didn't do the podcast because I was ready to tear Baldwin a new asshole. Like you remember, I was like, I got some shit to say, but then as always, and I preach this, more information comes out, and the picture gets a little bit clearer. So now I'm like, yeah. The productions, and again, Baldwin's not innocent because he was a producer. And I think if anyone had taken any of these safety concerns seriously, because there were apparently a lot of safety concerns, like I guess a couple days, or maybe it was the day of, I can't remember, but it was a short amount of time anyway. Like there were crew members that legit were getting ready to walk off set.
There were a lot of them that were disgruntled.
Yeah.
And that could make sense why this happened. You know, I mean, it could have been a disgruntled worker. They don't know. You know?
Well, I think more than anything, because usually it's just negligence.
Exactly.
But I am, as far as the actual firing of the weapon, though, I'm giving Baldwin a lot more slack than I was, simply because, like, it would be, even if he had checked the gun out, he honestly wouldn't have known without unloading the thing to check the actual rounds.
That's an issue, though. That's a big issue. He should have done.
But I mean, yes and no.
You can't just be handed something, you know, like, and then just be like, oh, okay, it's good to go. Like, you double check. What's the famous thing when you're building something? Measure twice, cut once.
Yes, but
I'm not saying that he deserves life in prison or anything stupid like that, but involuntary manslaughter for sure. He's not going to get a bunch of years for it. He's a
I don't even know that you could pin that on Baldwin, honestly, because, and the only reason I say that is because there are supposed to be very strict rules and regulations for handling weapons and prop weapons on a movie set. That gun is supposed to be checked by multiple people. I think it's a minimum of 2, the armorer and the assistant director. And clearly that wasn't done.
I mean, and also I believe that
now here's the other thing too.
The weapon should also check with him, be like, hey, does this look right?
Well, no, apparently that was done
with Baldwin.
Allegedly. It wasn't so much that he asked, but he was told. Allegedly, he was told that it was a cold gun. Which again, I wasn't on set, so I don't know.
I would just assume actors should have to be like, hey, does this look right? Is this blah? You know, open it up and everything like that.
Well,
they're fucking.
but supposedly that should have already been done twice.
I know, but
So
I mean by the actor holding the gun, because he's the one pulling the trigger.
Oh, I know. Well, here's the other part too. So this is the other side of it. This wasn't a scene where he was actually going to be firing the gun. He was doing a quick draw. Now, here's the other thing. So it is unclear, because I've heard both. I've heard that he pulled the trigger and I heard that he didn't. There have been multiple accounts. I'm willing to believe
yeah, okay, go ahead.
Which is not his fault, because apparently there had been other misfires on the set. Apparently it happened one time when somebody was just holding a weapon and it misfired. Or I shouldn't even say misfired. It
went off.
Yeah, it went off, because a misfire is when a bullet doesn't fire when it is supposed to.
Yeah. I listened to Tim.
I know what you meant, but we're big sticklers for like using the correct terminology.
Absolutely.
So I figured, and that's true, because there's a lot of people who throw around misfire, and then people who know a lot about guns, which I'm no expert, but I've shot guns. They're a lot of fun.
That's not a misfire. Misfire is when it doesn't go off at all.
Yeah, which makes sense. But